So let's start talking about the sum function. The sum function is one of the most widely used functions in Excel and for performing basic calculations in Microsoft Excel. We're going to be discussing the different ways you can add numbers in an Excel workbook, how to add maybe one or two numbers, adding a group of numbers, adding columns, adding rows, which is going to help us understand when we start getting to sum ifs and some of the different products that we'll be using. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the things on the cell or on the workbook. So when I click on a cell, I can't type into it yet until I double click it. So when I double click, I can change these numbers. I can change what's in the cell. And then I can also type into a cell by clicking in this bar up here. That allows me to type into the cell without actually having to double click. Just keep that in mind in this function bar up here when we start typing things in. It'll be more important when we start having some more complicated functions. But for right now, I just want to make you aware of what's going on. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to add numbers in Excel without having to use the actual sum function. So basically, when I click on a cell, this would be cell E3. I need E3 to equal something. So anytime I want to perform a calculation in a certain cell, I need to hit the equal sign, and that's going to tell me that I want E3 to equal blank. So we're going to type in a few numbers here. We'll type in 8. I need to add 8 to 9 to 10. So I have three numbers I want to add up using the equal sign. I'm going to hit enter. It's going to be 27. You could check that on a calculator. You can check that by hand. 8 plus 9 plus 10 equals 27. Let's say I wanted to add numbers to this function here, or this string of numbers. I could add 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Without having to double click the cell, I can type it right into the function bar up here. It equals, and it gives me 92. So that's a basic way to add numbers in Excel without having to use the sum function. The problem with this is if I have to add up 1,000 numbers, I'm not going to start adding plus 16 plus 17 all the way to 1,000. That would take me forever, and it's a waste of time. So what we're going to show you is how to add numbers in groups and the different ways you can do that. Okay. So as you can see here on the left, I have a column of numbers, 8, 6, 45, they're random numbers. I want to be able to add these up without having to go 8 plus 6 plus 45 plus 34 all the way down the line. I want a faster way to do that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use the sum function. So I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to start typing in the word sum. And you're going to start to see some different things pop up. You start to see some if, some ifs, some product, and all the way down the line. So what I want to use sum. So in order to pick one of these, you can double click, and the sum's going to come up. Now what it's going to tell you, it's going to tell you the syntax of what needs to go in to this particular function. And what I'm going to type in is I'm going to type in a range of numbers. We talked about this. So I'm going to type in B3, so it highlights B3 for me, through colon B13. So B13. I'm going to close the bracket, and now it has a range of numbers it's going to add up for me. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to add all the numbers. So 280. You can check this on a calculator. You can check this by hand, whatever you want to do. But that's a real quick way for me to add up a bunch of numbers. So I didn't have to just go 8 plus 6 plus 45 plus 34 all the way down the line. I can just type in the range I want to add up, and it spits it right out for me. Okay, so let's do one for a row now. So I'm going to go 7, 8, 65, 45, 56, 67, 78, 79, and 80. I can do the same thing. So I'm going to type in equals sum. Okay, the range I want is E3 through M3. You can see what it's going to add it up. 485. Okay, again, you can go through and add these up, go by hand, but I just showed you two ways you can add up columns, and you can add up rows or sum rows. This is big if you have a large data set where you need to add a certain amount of numbers. I don't want to have to sit there and add up 500 numbers. I find the first number, I find the range across or range down, add that in, and it's going to sum all those numbers for me. So that's a great way to be able to do that and do it quickly. Now, there's a couple other ways you can do this. So let's say I wanted to add the same numbers here. I can go equals sum, and I can type in 7, 8, 65, 45, 56, 67, 78, 79, 80. Close the bracket. It should add up to the same thing, 485. So when I did that, instead of, I can use the sum function without the plus signs in there. It takes just as long as doing it with the plus signs. I'd rather add up ranges using that sum function. Okay. Okay. So these are a few different ways you can use the sum function. You can do them using ranges in columns, ranges in rows. You can do it by just adding simple arithmetic, going equals and then adding them all up. You can also type in the numbers with the spaces with the commas to add up. But these are just a few different ways you can use the sum functions in Excel. And you'll see how important this is when we start going into larger data sets and when you start to add some larger groups of numbers. Hope you find this helpful for using the sum function and start to play around with it and see what you think. Thank you.